Princess Fiza of the Zephyrin Empire had always considered her human husband, Besset, to be charmingly delicate. Among her people, 7-foot-tall warriors with crystalline skin that could deflect plasma fire, he seemed almost fragile. His soft flesh, his modest height, his gentle demeanor. When her father, the Emperor, had arranged their diplomatic marriage to cement the alliance with Earth, she'd expected a warrior. Instead, she got a scholar. Basset spent his days in the palace archives, studying Zephyrin history with an enthusiasm that bewildered the court. He smiled at servants, asked questions instead of giving orders, and flinched at the violent gladiatorial games that entertained her people. Fiza loved him for his kindness, but she'd be lying if she said she didn't sometimes wonder if humans were simply harmless. That assumption shattered on the night the Krell attacked. The invasion came without warning. Krell warships, massive and bristling with weapons, descended upon the palace grounds. The Krell were known throughout the galaxy as unstoppable, a hive-minded species that had conquered 17 systems in as many cycles. Their exoskeletons could withstand temperatures that would melt Zephyrin crystal skin. Fiza was in the throne room when the first explosion rocked the palace. Her father's guards immediately formed a defensive perimeter, but she saw the concern in their eyes. The Krell didn't take prisoners. They harvested. "Where is Basset?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. A guard gestured toward the eastern wing. "The archives, Your Highness. We've sent—" She didn't wait to hear the rest. Her powerful legs carried her through corridors filled with smoke and the acrid smell of burning metal. She found Basset emerging from the archives, his face smudged with soot, carrying what looked like an armful of old data tablets. "Fiza!" His eyes widened with relief. "Thank the stars. We need to get you to the safe room." "What are you doing with those?" she asked, incredulous. "We're under attack." "I know," he said calmly, too calmly. "That's why I need these. Trust me." Something in his tone made her pause. This wasn't the gentle scholar she knew. His brown eyes had gone hard, calculating. She'd seen that look before in her father's generals right before a battle. They reached the palace's command center, where her father and his advisors were monitoring the invasion. Dozens of Krell warriors had breached the inner walls. The Emperor's forces were being overwhelmed. "Father," Fiza began, but Basset stepped forward. "Your Majesty, with your permission, I'd like to address the Krell." The room fell silent. The Emperor stared at the human as if he'd suggested juggling plasma grenades. "Address them?" The Emperor's voice dripped with disbelief. "They don't negotiate, human. They consume." "I'm not going to negotiate." Bassett's smile was terrifying in its confidence. "I'm going to tell them a story." Before anyone could stop him, Basset accessed the palace's broadcast system. His voice echoed across every speaker in every corridor, translated into the clicking, chittering language of the Krell. "Attention, Krell forces. My name is Basset of Earth. I am a human." He paused, letting that sink in. "I know you've studied us. You know we're small, weak. Our planet is a death world, but you probably think that's just propaganda. Let me tell you what that really means." Fiza watched the monitors. The Krell had actually stopped their advance. They were listening. "Earth tried to kill us every single day for millions of years," Basset continued, his voice steady and cold. "Predators with teeth like swords, diseases that ravaged continents, weather that could freeze or boil us, earthquakes, volcanoes, asteroids, and we survived it all. Not because we were strong, but because we were too stubborn to die." He pulled up images on the command center's displays, archived footage from Earth's history. Nuclear explosions, world wars, chemical weapons, pandemic hospitals. We survived ice ages by wearing the skin of animals we killed with rocks and sticks. When nature couldn't kill us fast enough, we tried to kill ourselves. We created weapons that could crack our planet in half. And you know what? We're still here. Not because we're peaceful, but because we learned to be. The Krell forces had completely halted. Fiza could see them on the monitors, their insectoid heads tilted, processing. "Here's what I know about your species," Basset said, and now his voice dropped to something absolutely glacial. "Your hive mind is your strength, but it's also your weakness. You've never fought an enemy that turns your own tactics against you. You've never faced humans in a real war." He tapped the data tablets he'd retrieved from the archives. "These contain every detail of Zephyrin biology, technology, and military strategy. Things it took me months to gather. If you leave now, right now, this stays secret. But if you continue this attack, I will broadcast every piece of this information across every human military channel in known space." The Emperor gasped. "Bassett, that's treason." "And then," Bassett continued, ignoring the outburst, "humanity will know that the great Krell Empire attacked our allies. The allies were sworn to protect, and we will come for you, not with honor, not with mercy. We will study you, dissect your tactics, find every microscopic weakness in your biology, and we will engineer viruses that target your specific genetic code. We will turn your hive mind into your tomb." The silence was absolute. "We humans have a saying," Bassett said softly. "We didn't claw our way to the top of Earth's food chain to be eaten by oversized insects. You have 60 seconds to withdraw. After that, I start broadcasting." Fiza watched, barely breathing, as the Krell forces stood motionless for 59 agonizing seconds. Then as one, they turned and began retreating to their ships. Within minutes, the Krell fleet was gone. Bassett set down the tablets and turned to face the stunned Emperor. "Your Majesty, I apologize for the deception. I would never actually betray Zephyra's secrets." But they didn't know that. The Emperor stared at him for a long moment, then began to laugh, a booming sound that filled the chamber. You bluffed them. You bluffed the Krell? I prefer to think of it as aggressive negotiation," Bassett said with a small smile. The gentle scholar was back as if the terrifying strategist had never existed. Fiza pulled her husband into an embrace, feeling his very human heartbeat against her crystalline skin. She'd thought him harmless. She'd been so wrong. Humans weren't harmless. They just learned, after millions of years of survival, that sometimes the best weapon was the one you never had to use, and sometimes the most dangerous thing in the galaxy was a gentle man who had every reason to be kind, and every capacity to be absolutely ruthless. "Bassett," she whispered, "remind me never to underestimate your species again." He kissed her forehead. "Don't worry, my love. As long as I'm around, you'll never have to see that side of humanity. That's the whole point of being civilized." But now she understood. Humans weren't civilized because they were weak. They were civilized despite being terrifying. And that made all the difference.